Very good evening, all of you. And
Good
tonight
evening.
we have a special talk on the mindfulness for finding peace in a frantic world. And our speaker this evening is Dr. Yoka King. Now, as we know, mindfulness is one of the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path taught by the Buddha. And this Eightfold Path provides a method for spiritual growth and transformation. In the language of the sutras or the discourses by the Buddha, it says that this would lead to overcoming of sorrow and misery and for the destruction of pain and grief. In other words, the cultivation of mindfulness and meditation is aimed at nothing less than final liberation from suffering or the attainment of Nibbana, which is, of course, the highest goal of the Buddha's teachings. But mindfulness is not just for the achievement of the highest goal. There are many general applications of mindfulness, and this will bring tremendous benefit to people, regardless of ethnicity and religious affiliations in their normal life activities. There is a universal quality about the practice of mindfulness, which is the reason why it is widely accepted in the West. Now, the angle adopted by the Westerners to mindfulness is not from the spiritual or religious angle, not from spiritual or religious practice for the sake of attaining Nibbana, but for the practical and the wide-ranging benefits that it brings to the practitioners. Mindfulness has been used for bringing a balance of mind, generate peace and calmness, overcome stress, improve scholastic achievements, bring about emotional intelligence, greater work productivity, leadership acumen, and so on. And these benefits have actually been validated and supported by extensive scientific research done in top universities. It is from this practical angle that mindfulness has found its way into schools, into the training of athletes, as well as the House of Parliament. There is no denying that the world we lived in is becoming more complicated and frantic. And this occurs in many dimensions, at a personal level, the enterprise and business level, societal level, as well as the geopolitical level. Now, how can we use mindfulness as a technique and strategy to cope better in life amidst all these challenges, so that we become a steady rock in a stormy ocean? Our speaker this evening is very qualified to speak on mindfulness as a tool for finding peace in a frantic world. He is Dr. Yoka King. He is a fully certified teacher for Search Inside Yourself curriculum for developing mindfulness and emotional intelligence that was developed and tested at Google in the United States. Now, I do not know how many of you have heard of the SIY program, Search Inside Yourself program. It was actually developed by Brother Tan Chak Ming, who came from Singapore, but he worked in Google, and Google has always allowed this staff some amount of their time they could spend developing certain things that they like. And Brother Tan Chak Ming developed this Search Inside Yourself, which is making use of mindfulness and to be applied into the business environment. And this program has been tremendously successful. And I must say something special about Dr. Yo, because Dr. Yo and I met up with Brother Tan Chak Ming in Singapore when Tan Chak Ming came over to Singapore. And over the lunch table, the discussion between Dr. Yo and Tan Chak Ming has obviously impressed Dr. Tan Chak Ming. That impressed Brother Tan Chak Ming, that he offered a scholarship to Dr. Yo, to Ka King. So he was offered a scholarship right across the table. And Chak Ming's father actually offered to fly Brother Ka King over to San Francisco. So, and he is actually the first certified teacher for Search Inside Yourself program. And to date, Dr. Yo has conducted over 100 mindfulness workshops to various audience ranging from global technology companies to investment firms to hospitals and humanitarian organizations. In Asia itself, he's one of the pioneers in introducing mindfulness training to corporate organizations, and this includes Intel, Dell, Huawei, TSMC, Deloitte, Mercedes-Benz, Infineon, and Vitrox, and so on. Dr. Yo is the founding chairman of Malaysia Mindfulness Association, and he has frequently been featured in the local mass media. I think also very popular in the Chinese media as well. He obtained a doctorate degree, not in mindfulness, but in organic chemistry at the very prestigious Oxford University, and is currently a senior lecturer in the School of Chemical Sciences at University Science Malaysia. So with that as an introduction, let us welcome Dr. Yoka King to give us a talk on this topic.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sri, Dr. Victor V, for the very kind introduction. And good evening, everyone. Although I can't see you, but I believe we have audience from different parts of Malaysia and maybe from different countries as well. So it's my great pleasure and honor to be able to be here tonight at my house in Penang to share with you some thoughts on mindfulness and how to apply mindfulness as a tool to cope with the challenges that we have in this frantic world. So at first, I would like to put on my slide. Okay, wait, let me share the screen first. Okay, can you see the screen? I believe you can, isn't it? Okay, let's start with a little bit of introduction of myself. Although Dr. Sri have kindly introduced myself, but I just like to talk a little bit of my background on mindfulness. I started to learn about mindfulness about more than 20 years ago when I was a university student, second year in my university. And that is from the Buddhist perspective. I went to many meditation retreats and then learned from different meditation teachers. Most of them are monks. And then after that, I received a scholarship to do my PhD at Oxford University. That was my first encounter to what we call contemporary mindfulness, modern mindfulness. At Oxford University itself, there is an Oxford Mindfulness Center. In fact, tonight's talk, the title, I got the inspiration from this book written by Professor Mark Williams and Danny Penman. The book is called A Mindfulness, a Practical Way, a Practical Guide to Finding Peace in a Frantic World. And this is Professor Mark Williams. He is the professor in Department of Psychology at Oxford University, and also the former directors of Oxford Mindfulness Center. I attended their 8 weeks program on mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. We call it MBCT. It's a very popular program in the West, especially for the purpose of prevention of recurrent depression. There is a purpose why MBCT was developed at the first place. Of course, MBCT was not the first secular mindfulness program. The first one will be like Mbsr, mindfulness-based stress reduction, developed by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn at the University of Massachusetts at the Stress Reduction Clinic. That was back to 1979. So MBSR and MBCT.
Okay.
Yes.
Just hold on for a while. We cannot see your screen. Are you sharing?
Oh, you cannot see my screen.
We cannot see.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Maybe I should. Can you see it now, Dr. Sri?
Oh, yes. That's good. Yeah.
Oh, wait. Yeah, please let me know. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, I can see. I can see something there. Professor Mark Williams for Oxford.
Yes. Oh, that's good. Thank you for letting me know. So yeah, you can interrupt me, please, Dr. Sri, because what I can see is only my screen. I cannot even see anyone.
You learn
I'm
how to
like,
talk to the computer.
I have to practice like speaking to the screen. This is a little bit different from like actual what we call talk that we have face-to-face talk. I think this is also one of the modern days challenge that we have to speak to the screen. Okay, let me continue. Okay, this is Professor Mark William from Oxford Mindfulness Center. And when I was at Oxford that time doing my PhD,
Sorry, okay.
yep.
Just hold on for a while. I think the screen is still not shared.
Oh,
According to
really?
what we had was just a comment. Can you try again sharing your screen?
Okay, let me try again. Let me try again. Let me
Isn't
try
this
again.
the right one? No. Your screen, is it
But
like a PowerPoint?
let's see. Let me see. Maybe. Oh, I remember. Okay, okay. I have to press the share screen. I think I didn't press the share screen. Okay, one more time. Cancel, because I'm not so used to this.
StreamYard.
Oh, stream yet, but I cannot share my screen. Even I cannot press as well. Sharing a screen. Okay, let's see. Cancel one more time. Okay, let me cancel. I should press the share screen, isn't it? But I cannot share the screen because the button is not activated. I think what we can do is maybe, Brother Alex, you do have my slide, isn't it? If you could, maybe you share the screen so that everyone can see. Oh, okay. Alex, or
Yes,
now everyone can see the screen or not?
not yet.
Not yet. Okay. One more time. One more time. I try, or maybe I try one more time to share the screen. Okay. But definitely I cannot share the screen here because the button is deactivated. Okay. Your entire screen. Oh, okay. Okay. Let's see one more time. Maybe this time is okay already. I think this time it works. Isn't it? Can you see? Or maybe Alex, can you see the screen?
We
I think
almost
so.
yeah. That's good.
Yep, yep. Oh,
Yeah,
great,
we are
great.
on.
Now I can
Yeah.
see already.
Right
Eh?
in business. Very
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for the technical what we call issue, but just now everyone can hear me, isn't it? The only thing that they couldn't see the screen, but now you can see the screen. Okay, let me continue. Okay, so this is as I said, I my first encounter with contemporary mindfulness was at the Oxford Mindfulness Center. Okay, I attended the 8-week program, and after I returned to Malaysia, I thought this is really good, to share mindfulness in a more in a secular way, and also more systematic, and link it with science and psychology. Therefore, after I returned from UK and worked at USM, I started a project called Mindful as a Jatra. Okay, sharing with the lecturers and students on mindfulness. So this is Professor Mark William. As you can see, he is one of the pioneers who brought mindfulness into the parliament, and they started a project called a Mindful Initiative and published a report called a Mindful Nation UK report. You can really see mindfulness is really a big thing now in the West, especially like in the UK. They are studying on introducing mindfulness into mainstream medicine and psychology. This is one area. Second will be the corporate sector. And the third one will be like school, education. And the last one is in the prison. Okay. So if you are interested, you can download this Mindful Nation UK report for free. So this is a Search Inside Yourself program, or the book written by Meng, mentioned by Dr. Sri just now. This picture actually was taken at Google campus. Meng has now retired from Google. So if you're interested, you can look up for the book. And I would like to share a little bit on this Search Inside Yourself program, or SIY, because I'm a certified teacher teaching this program. There are three main components in SIY. The first one, of course, is mindfulness. Mindfulness is used as a tool to develop emotional intelligence. When we're talking about emotional intelligence, we are talking about 5 aspects of emotional intelligence. The first one is self-awareness. Second is self-management or emotional management. The third aspect is motivation, and then empathy and social skill. So in SIY, we blended all these five emotional intelligence competency to develop or what we call to enable leadership. Leadership is about how you are going to create a positive impact on the people around you. Okay, and also this program is science-based or evidence-based, supported by neuroscience. In the program, we will share, how by the training of mindfulness, you can actually develop the functions of your mind, like how to pay attention, and also like how to reduce stress and better emotional management. So this can be measured as a function and also measure in the changes of the structures of the brain, or is more specifically to the cortical thickness of the brain. For example, one of the function of the prefrontal cortex that is for attention regulation or to pay attention. So if you practice mindfulness for a certain period of time, under the fMRI machine, the scientist is able to measure, of course, it's like not the millimeters or even smaller than that unit, that you can see that part of the brain, prefrontal cortex, has developed in terms of like mental muscle or the brain muscle. So this is what we call neuroplasticity. Okay, so this is a bit some background on how or why mindfulness has been so well accepted by the West. Okay, because it's mainly supported by empirical research. Of course, it's still at a very early stage, but this will give a lot of confidence to people around. And as you can see, the logo here is show that the corporate organization that embrace what we call mindfulness training. Of course, just now we have mentioned Google. Google is not alone. We have SAP, and we have even Intel. Intel have what we call Awake at Intel program, which is mindfulness-based program to develop or to improve the wellness or emotional intelligence competencies or leadership skill. Okay, and then this is a training I conducted at Huawei. In fact, I went to numbers of Huawei research center in China to offer the SIY program. And then this is in Malaysia, Dell. These are the top management of Dell. And then lastly, this is in Hong Kong, English School Foundation. Just want to give a little bit background to those who are not so familiar with the what we call the modern development and also application of mindfulness in the modern world. Okay, now let's come back to our main topic today. What are actually our challenges in this modern world, or you can say the frantic world? Especially at this time, the world is facing with what we call COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, the economy has been badly affected, by this pandemic, and a lot of people also facing with emotional issue and how we are going to cope with that. Let's talk about the three major challenges first. What are the challenges like facing by the people in the modern world? The first one is stress. Okay, a lot of people are working adults. Whether the stress could become from your work, and also could become from like a family, health issue, and family. A lot of people are having problem to coping with the stress, and we do not have a important skill to work with stress. Although we have studied a lot different subject in the school, like myself as an educator, study until PhD and now work in the university. I think we averagely people spend about 10 to 20 years in the school, but we have not been taught on how to work with our emotion and stress. Okay, so stress is one of the major issue or one of the major challenges facing by us. The second will be emotions. I always like to tell this story. This guy, his name is Ke Jie. Okay, is this Go or chess champions of in China. Years ago, there was a competition between this Ke Jie with AI technology developed by Google called AlphaGo. Try to think about it. Before the actual tournament, do you think that Ke Jie he could sleep very well, or AlphaGo could sleep better? Okay, just kidding. And you can see that AI technology or robot have no emotion, but as a human being, we have emotions, and emotion will also affect our performance, our mental focus, and so on. At the end, of course, Ke Jie lost this tournament. But you can think about it, before the games or after the game, how is he going to cope with this emotion? If emotion has not been managed very well, it will actually create more issue as well, including stress. So emotional management is also one of the greatest challenges that we have in the modern world, and we have not been taught on how to work with our emotion. So the third challenges that we have is what we call, like, people now have very short attention span, and Harvard scientists have shown that we spend about half of our average time in mind wandering, which means if we are trying to read a book or trying to do something, half of the time we are not able to pay full attention into what we do. Okay, the mind keep on wandering. So this is really one of the greatest challenges that we have. Now everybody have a mobile phone, have to reply to email, WeChat, WhatsApp message, so many things, and we have YouTube videos. These are the modern technology that we have to work with, but the end result is, our attention span have become shorter and shorter. And the same same group of researcher also show that, what they found is a wandering mind is not a happy mind. If you are not able to stay focused, okay, our mind is keep on wandering, which means it will also affect your what we call mental well-being. Okay, and we are not alone, because the scientists share with us there is a network in our brain called the default mode network, or DMN. Sometimes it's called the brain dark energy. This network is always active, even at our resting state. Okay, when you're trying to rest and do nothing, but your brain is still very active. Your attention is always, sometimes is in the past, sometimes is in the future. Especially when you have to cope with some challenges, like giving an important presentation, or sitting for exam, or even getting married. These are the important, what we call, event in our life, and our mind can't stop, thinking about it and start to worry about it. So this is also at that time the default mode network is especially active. So which means if we do not try to do anything, our mind is always at this state, past and futures. Attention is in the past or future. Sometimes is distracted, or you can say it's quite restless. There is only very little moment that we experience peace. Because, as mentioned before, a wandering mind is an unhappy mind, which means this is a norm. Maybe we can call it a new norm, like COVID-19, new norm, okay, that we have to adapt. So this is like a stream, like we are following the stream. Or even in thermodynamic, I'm teaching organic chemistry. There's one topic is on thermodynamic. We call it entropy, delta S. Entropy means things in the universe tend to go to a state of disorder. So that is also the same with our mind. If we do not do anything, okay, so that will be at the state, mind wandering, distraction, thinking about past and future. So this is the challenges that we have, actually not the modern life challenges. I believe even in the Buddha time, 2,500 years ago, okay, the mental state is also similar. Therefore, the Buddha said, dukkha, okay, unsatisfactoriness is no satisfaction. If you do not develop our mind, that is the state, especially when we have to cope or face with challenges. So, what do we need to do? What we need to do is actually go against the current. Okay, so when we say go against the current, which means we want to develop an inner strength or an ability how to bring our attention from the past and future to the present moment. How to actually shift our mind from a distracted state to a more focused state, from restless to peace. Okay, so which means something has to be done. Okay, so and therefore, because this is go against the current, which means we have to develop the strength or the inner power. So in this day, mindfulness has been called a superpower, okay, because it could help if we train in mindfulness and we know, how to train ourselves in terms of mental focus and how to work with our emotion. Then mindfulness could become one of our inner strength and superpower. So you may wonder, what actually is mindfulness? Let's, of course, as we said, what we can do, how. The thing is, what we want to do is to switch from autopilot to aware. Just now, what we mentioned, attention is in the past or future. There is almost like autopilot, an autopilot state. Okay, what we want to do is to switch from autopilot to aware. And how we are going to do that? Okay, and that is through what we call mindfulness. So, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness, even the English term, is relatively new. It was used to translate the words, Pali words called sati. Okay, so when the what we call the translator trying to translate sati, that time they use the English word called mindfulness. Be mindful, of course, mindful or be mindful has been there for a long time, but not the now mindfulness. Mindfulness, I think, was used is in early 80s or 90s for the translation of sati, okay, by the scholar. So when we say be mindful, sometime when we get off of the train, you will see the what we call the sign telling you be mindful. So what is be mindful? Be mindful means to be more careful, isn't it? When we need to be more careful or pay more attention. So that is the meaning, one of the meanings of mindfulness. But by looking at this word, the Chinese characters of sati or mindfulness, this word is pronounced nian in Chinese. It's very meaningful word because nian actually in Chinese mean to remember or to bear in mind. If you read Chinese or understand Chinese, sometimes we use the words called 想念. When we say we 想念, means we miss someone, which means you cannot forget this person. So 念, the original meanings of sati or mindfulness actually means to remember. To remember for to do what? To remember to pay attention to the present moment. Okay, so as also this nian, this word reflect, this is one character, mean present moment or now. This character is pronounced jing, or you can say like now or today. Okay, and the second character at the bottom mean sing. Sing actually mean awareness. Okay, so when put them together, it become present moment awareness. Present moment awareness means the opposite will be absent-minded. Okay, so the opposite of absent-minded is present moment awareness, or you can say it, maybe you can call it present mindedness. present moment awareness and to be able to remember or to recall. It has a very close connection. For example, when you go home, after you go back from your work and go home, and you simply drop or put your handphone somewhere. But at the time when you place your handphone, that time your mind is not at the present moment. Okay, your mind, you are absent-minded that time. So after that, you will not be able to recall where you have actually put your mobile phone. So you can see the connection or not. So to be able to remember or to recall, one of the condition is your mind must be able to be present at that time. So as you can see, this quality of to be able to remember or to recall or to pay attention at the present moment is a universal quality. And you can say, we can also say that there is a universal function of the mind or the brain. Let's take for example, for example, now you are listening to me now. If you do not pay attention, your mind is not here, your mind start to wander, you will not be able to remember what I said later. You will not be able to recall what you hear, isn't it? So paying attention and the ability to recall is what we call the function of mindfulness. Giving this example, mindfulness will be a universal quality, regardless of your religious background or your ethnic background, isn't it? Because everybody have to train themselves to be present, at the present moment, so that we are able to recall what we learn later. Okay, so as you can see, mindfulness have no so-called religious color in that. Okay, this is the so-called the general definition of mindfulness. Later, I'm going to give a more specific definition of mindfulness, especially to be used as a tools. Okay, so more specifically, when we define mindfulness as what we call a technique to train our mind, this will fit better with the second definition. Just now, we have mentioned that mindfulness being present moment awareness or paying attention to the present moment. Of course, we have the specific object to pay attention. In this training, we pay attention to our body, to pay attention to our mind, what happens in our mind, including the feelings, thoughts, and emotion, and also the surrounding. Surrounding will be including other people. When you talk to someone, whether your mind is fully present or not when you are having this conversation. If not, you are not able to pay attention to what people are trying to share with you. So that will be, in this aspect, mindfulness has what we call is a trainable technique or practice or skill that will be enable us to bring our attention back to the present moment. Okay, so that, for example, through pay attention to your breath or through pay attention to your body as an object of attention. Okay, so this is the one of the very important factors or component in mindfulness. The second component of mindfulness is called the attitude. Attitude will be how to pay attention. For example, if your mind start to wander when you try to pay attention to your breath, when you try to meditate, of course your mind will start to wander. Okay, many times when the mind started to wander, we start to judge ourselves. We start to be very critical about ourselves. So we say, oh, why this happened? Why I cannot control my mind? Why my mind is so restless? That is our reaction, isn't it? So in terms of attitude, this is very important component. So when you pay attention to your state of body or mind and how you are going to respond to it, especially when your mind start to wander or when you experience certain what we call painful sensation in your body or certain emotion. That will be on how you are going to pay attention to this body and mind state. Okay, so in mindfulness, we are going to develop this right attitude. We pay attention to what is happening at the present moment in our mind, body, okay, with a kind of what we call with kind attention, or sometimes we call it with kindness and curiosity. This will be on how you are going to relate, with your emotions. Okay, so in summary, we can say that mindfulness means paying attention to what is happening in the present moment, in the mind, body, and the external environment, with an attitude of curiosity and kindness. And this is the definition given by Mindful Nation UK report. So, when we're talking about mindfulness as a what we call a therapy or a training, it must consist of these two major components. One is attention training. One is we train ourselves on how to respond, to our present moment body and mind state. Okay, so this will be the more complete understanding on mindfulness. So let's do some practice. Okay, let me check what is the time now. How much time do we have? Okay, this is almost 35 minutes. I think we still have time. So let's try some practice. Okay, I'm going to share with you some simple mindfulness practice. After we have briefly understand what mindfulness is, so now I'm going to share with you some technique on how to develop this ability to pay attention at the present moment. Okay, and also to pay attention to our emotions and thoughts. So basically, when we say mindfulness is an attention training, what do we mean by that? First is what is attention. When we say pay attention, for example, you may pay attention to my hand here. Okay, so when we say pay attention, you are directing your attention or your mind to a certain object or to a certain direction. This is what we mean by paying attention. Okay, so second ability that we want to train in mindfulness is what we call a meta attention. What is meta attention? Meta attention is the attention of attention, which means the ability to know that your mind has wandered. So in mindfulness, we do not afraid that the mind wanders, because mind wandering is what we call you can say that it's a norm. Okay, because we have also mentioned default mode network is always very active. If you do not train the brain, do not train our mind, the what we call the norm or the default state is like going is mind wandering. Okay, so what we need to therefore we need to train to bring the mind back to the present moment again and again. So at first, when we start to practice mindfulness, we are bringing our attention or direct our attention to a certain object. The object will include body and mind, but body is always easier to start with, okay, because the body is always at the present moment. So later in the practice, I'm going to guide you on how to develop what we call the body awareness and breath awareness, using our body and breath as an anchor for our mind to come back to the present moment. Okay, this also brings us to this another technique that I always like to share with my students. It's called the anchor of now. When we say anchor of now, we bring our attention to our soul. Okay, to our Malay say tapak kaki. You feel your soul or feel your feet, placing on the ground. You feel the the touching sensation and feel the what we call the weight of your body. Okay, so this is one very important method, because whenever you go, okay, for example, when we walked, if you pay attention to our soul or to our feet, our mind immediately come back to the present moment. And also when you sit, you see, when we sit and then we bring our attention to our soul, and right there our mind will be at the present moment. Similarly, when we stand, okay, when we stand, we also pay attention to our soul, and then our attention be right back there. Okay, so this is one of the very important tips, for people to develop the ability to come back to the present moment. Therefore, I call it anchor of now. You will anchor our mind at the present moment. So later I'm going to guide you on that as well. And the second one, as I said, is the body awareness. We can always use our body as an anchor of now as well, because our body is ever present. The only thing that wanders is the mind, isn't it? So when we pay attention to our body, our mind is right back. Okay, so after some time, when you pay attention to your body or to your breath, you start to forget. Okay, therefore your mind start to get become mindless. Okay, forgetfulness. When we forget our body or forget our breath, our mind is not right there, isn't it? So when the mind wanders, we aware of that. That will be called a meta attention. So this will be the first step of the mindfulness training. Okay, by paying attention to our body and also to paying attention to the breath. So now I'm going to combine this method and going to guide you on a simple mindfulness practice on mindfulness of the body and breath. Okay, if you are in a safe environment, at home, or you are not driving, so please, follow me with this practice. So the first step, you may place your hands on your laps. Okay, this is and then you may slowly close your eyes and bring your attention back to this body. First step, be aware of your sitting posture, how your body is positioned when you sit. Have a feelings of your whole body sitting here. Be aware of different touching sensation, including the anchor of now, your soul or your feet come into contact with the ground or with the floor. Just bring your attention there. Feel your both soles. Right sole, left sole. Feel the touching sensation. And then slowly switch your attention to your buttock. Be aware of your buttock. Come into contact with the chair that you are sitting. Be aware of the touching sensation. And be aware of the weight of a body. Your whole body. As I mentioned, as well as the touching sensation. You may feel soft or hard. You may pay attention to this sensation. And then next, bring your attention to your upper body. Feel your chest, your shoulders, your upper back, your lower back. And also to your abdomen. Have a sense of your whole body sitting here. You may also pay attention to the different touching sensation, including the clothes that you are wearing, come into contact with your skin, like covering your whole upper body. Not to imagine or visualize, but to feel it. Pay your attention there. You may extend your attention to feel your limbs, your hands, your palms, and your fingers. Be aware of your touching sensation when the palm come into contact with your laps. Aware of your weight of your both hands. And when your hand come into contact with the air in the surrounding, the temperature or the windy sensation. Okay? Then have a sense of your whole body, including your upper body, your both hands, your buttock, your both legs, your soul, sitting here. And then slowly extend your attention to your neck. Feel the tightness or some pressure sensation there. Then bring your attention to your face, your facial skin. Come into contact with the air in the surrounding. The warmness or the coldness on the surface of your skin. Your lips are touching each other. Your eyes' lips are touching each other. Feel the sensation. And then bring your attention to your both ears. Feel the temperatures on your both ears. Warmness or coldness. Then bring your attention to the crown of your head or your whole head. And then now you may feel your whole body from the crown of your head slowly move down to your forehead, to your both eyes, to your ears, lips, facial skin, neck, shoulders, chest, abdomen, upper back and lower back, your buttock, your both legs, your both hands, your soul. Now have a sense of the whole body sitting here. What we need to do is to remember to pay attention to our body. Okay. You may now ask yourself a question. Am I taking an in breath now, or am I taking an out breath now? Be curious. Bring your attention to feel the process of breathing. Natural breathing. You do not need to control anything. What you need to do is just be curious and pay attention to the breath or the process of breathing. If you can't feel the breath, that is okay. You just have to pay attention to the whole body. If you can feel the breath, that is also very good. We should pay more attention to the breath. At the same time, having the body awareness in the background. You may start to notice your mind start to think about the past and future. That is normal. Just be aware, gently bring it back to the breath or to the body. Okay. Now having a sense of the whole body sitting here again. Feel your whole body. And you may start to pay attention to the sound in the surrounding. any sound. Just expand your awareness field to beyond your body. And then you may slowly open your eyes. When you open your eyes, be aware of what you see in front of you, the color and the shape. Okay? You may slowly move your body, or you put your palm together. Okay, put your palm together. Feel the touching sensation of your both hands. You may feel the softness or the warmness of your hand. And that is the feeling that we pay attention to. It's not any extraordinary experience. It's a very common experience. What we need to do is to bring our attention back and to be aware of this ordinary experience. Okay? Then you may start to rub your hand. Make it warm. Rub your hand. Make your hand warm. And then cup your hand on your face. Feel the warmness of your hand slowly transfer to your body, to your face. And then you may give yourself a massage on your forehead, your temples, and then washing your face, like in the morning when we wash our face, but now without water. Okay, just rub it. And then pulling your ears up and down, pulling your ears up and down. And then give yourself a little bit of massage on your shoulders. Okay, how do you feel? No, I'm not sure for how many of you that it's the first time you ever sitting for so long, paying attention to your body and breath. So this is a very simple and also a short practice that we do, maybe over 10 minutes. Okay, for some people it may feel that quite short. For someone may feel that it's too long because your mind, always wandered and a lot of maybe feelings and emotions start to pop up. That is also very natural. Okay, what we need to do is pay attention to this feeling or thought and aware that our mind has been dragged to that direction, aware of it, and then coming back again to your body or to your breath. Later, maybe at the end of the session, someone may share your experience, or maybe you have some question you may ask later. Okay, so this will be like anchor of now, and then body awareness and also breath awareness. I combine them together. Okay, because in mindfulness practice, what is important is not what you pay attention to, is the quality of your attention. Okay, whether you are fully aware or not. You can pay attention to your breath, you can pay attention to your body, okay? Or when your mind started to wander, you aware, there is some thoughts or feelings arises, okay? After pay attention to them with kindness, and then slowly you return back to your body or to your breath. For beginners, this is a very good way to start with, okay? Because if you immediately pay attention to your thoughts or emotion, sometimes it could be quite tricky because our attention our thoughts is always about the past and future. We may just follow the trend of thought without being fully aware of it. So we need to have an object or anchor. Normally it start with physical object. Okay, start with body. As I explained, because the body is always here and now, so that we have a home to come back. Okay, we know that when we pay attention to our body, pay attention to our breath, our mind, come back to the present moment. Of course, there are many other objects as well, including the sound, the sight, what you see, what you smell, the touching sensation and the taste. But that will be like a more advanced practice already. Okay, maybe share with you next time. So at home, I strongly encourage you to at least spend about 3 minutes per day. If you don't have time, 3 minutes, it could be the shortest time you may use to practice mindfulness. Sometimes even 1 minute. Ming said, one breath, that is the shortest time. But I would recommend at least, every day you give yourself 3 minutes. I call it 3 mindful space, for yourself to be alone and pay attention to your body and mind at the present moment. So the first minute or the first step you may spend on feeling your body, pay attention to your body. After that, you can switch your attention to your breath and then coming back to the body again. Okay, so and you can, if you have longer time, you can do each one for 5 minutes, then it total up will be 15 minutes. This is just a very basic, and a good way to start. Okay, so one of the technique that I would like to share with you for tonight. And then, later you may share, how do you feel with me. And in mindfulness practice, I still have some time, we can divide it to two ways. One is called dedicated practice. It's like we are going to the gym, every day or every week. We allocate some time or we dedicate ourselves, like each day or every day, 5 to 10 minutes for the sitting practice, sitting meditation. Okay. And the other types of practice or the other way that we can practice mindfulness is what we call integrated practice. Okay, that will be a shorter practice. Like every time before the meeting, you spend about 1 minute to fully arrive at the meeting. Okay, so like pay attention to your body or to your breath. Okay, and also integrated practice including mindfulness in the daily life. Okay, so when we learn about the techniques, very important at the beginning is techniques matters. Okay, we need to know how to actually practice mindfulness. So there are many ways. For example, we brush our teeth every day. We can use that activity as a mindfulness activity. When we wake up, we are fully aware of our body and the state of mind, and then we stand up. The whole process, we are aware of the whole body. When the body moves, your mind or your attention is with your body. And then you go to the toilet, you stand there, and then you start to brush your teeth. Okay, every moment you pay attention to your physical activity. We use the body as an anchor so that we can come back to the present moment. When we pay attention to our body, we can't avoid paying attention to our mind as well, because there are always thoughts and sometimes feelings. Okay, so these are the secondary objects that we can pay attention to. Because as we see in mindfulness, we train ourselves to pay attention to our body, mind, and also the surrounding. How does the surrounding having an impact on our emotional state? Okay, so these are the way that we can practice mindfulness. We call it living mindfully. Okay, when we eat something, when you drink something, you can also pay attention. Of course, the best thing is you attend a course, a workshop, or learn from an experienced teachers so that you know the various way of practicing mindfulness. So, and also you can practice mindfulness at the workplace. As I said, mindful meeting, mindful communication, mindful listening when you listen to someone, even mindful driving your car, okay, mindful replying email. There are many ways. These are the techniques or tools that we can apply how to integrate mindfulness in our daily life. And this is the Facebook of our Malaysia Mindfulness Association. You can like our page. Sometimes we do share some useful information on mindfulness. And then lastly, I hope through this 1 hour sharing, we have some ideas on what is mindfulness and how to practice mindfulness. If we develop it every day, like develop going to the gym to build our muscle, if we develop mindfulness over time, then you can really see there is an improvement in your brain function. For example, how to pay attention, and how to cope with emotions. Okay, and so mindfulness is like a very strong, just now Dr. Sri said it's a rock, okay? It will be a pole as well, okay? In this turbulence time or in this frantic world, we develop an inner strength or a home for us to come back, okay? So that we can always return to the present moment and be present to whatever things that we do, okay? So this is very, and then hopefully by the practice of mindfulness, we will be able to experience a more what we call calmer, clearer, and peaceful mind as well. So this is this for the benefits of in our daily life, or we call it the modern life. Of course, mindfulness can bring us much more deeper or to a higher goal, like of a spiritual goal to achieve the total enlightenment or to the end of the suffering. Of course, in terms of the practice, they are a little bit different, and also there are a lot of similarity as well. So by this, I end today sharing on this topic of mindfulness. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and thank you very much for your attention. Okay, so I think now I will stop sharing the screen, and then I pass the mic over to Dr. Sri.
Yes, Dr. Yo, thank you so much for your wonderful talk. You were talking about contemporary mindfulness, and this has to be distinguished from people practicing mindfulness and meditation as a way of spiritual evolution. Obviously, in the Buddhist path, that also becomes really important, because ultimately we are aiming to get enlightenment. And how mindfulness has now been taken the West by storm because of the beneficial effects that it brings to people, and are being supported by neuroscience. And so the Dr. Yo has also mentioned that research has shown that if you have a wandering mind, you're not going to be a happy person. Wandering mind is not a happy mind, because you fall back to your default mode network, which always dwells in the past and future, and is always like negative. And the only way to get beyond these negative states of mind is to anchor the mind in the present moment. And what Dr. Yo has done is to run through with us a very quick practice on mindfulness, that is being aware of our body, and then moving on to the breath, and then coming back to the body. And when we talk about mindfulness, we talk about attention to the body. Mind is a bit difficult, but that also comes as we develop our practice further. And the attention must also come with attitude, which is the kindness and curiosity. So these are some very useful techniques, and it has also mentioned how we should try to practice it at least 3 minutes a day. If you can make that to happen in your life, you will see some beneficial effects. Now, if I might ask the first question, and obviously the audience also listening to you to the talk, can you please type in your questions on the Facebook, and then we will run your questions down here. Yeah. So the first question is, thank you for your sharing. Do you conduct workshop for beginners in Penang Island? So this is from Penang.
Very good question.
Yeah.
I do conduct public course, public course from time to time, and also give a public workshop, okay. And then after that, if you are interested, after you have attended a training, you are welcome to join as a member in the Malaysia Mindfulness Association, okay. And we do have a monthly gathering or monthly revision class, but that is only open for those who have already attended the workshop, or at least half a day workshop, because we cannot always recruit new member. If not, every time we have to repeat the same thing again and again. So at this moment, I do not offer any course at this moment because of COVID-19, but you can always follow us on our Facebook. If there is any future course, you may get the information from there.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe
Tasreen, you may ask your
if
question
you
as
have
well.
questions, first let me ask a question. All right, now we know about the MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. How could mindfulness itself be used for a person to cope with stress and with a sense of crisis? Because you started off with the talk by talking about the pandemic. This pandemic has very negative implications on the economy and also on people. You know, people losing their jobs and seeing the business fail because you don't have income coming in for months upon months. How can mindfulness, in what way can mindfulness help a person to be able to tackle stress and to be able to handle crisis like a pandemic of COVID-19?
Okay, a very good question by Dr. Sri. Let me share a little bit of background of MBSR program. Okay, MBSR was first developed by John Kabat-Zinn, for the purpose of like helping the patient to cope with chronic pain. Okay, a lot of patients they suffer from physical pain. Of course, when we suffer from physical pain, when we have health issue, the body is not alone. You always come with stress, always come with emotion, isn't it? So the first step is always to develop the ability to come back to the present moment. The reason why is if we do not have the ability to come back to the present moment, our mind is always wanders to the future, to the past or futures. And this is the one of the main source of stress. When we say we are very stressful, then we start to think what will happen in futures if I do not do well, if I lost my job, isn't it? You can see that. So the first step is always that have an anchor for our mind to return or to come back. That will help us to develop what we call the stability of mind. That is only the first step. After that, when emotions start to arise, and that will be how to pay attention to our emotion. The modern scientists also show us emotions actually express themselves in our body, which means emotions are physiological experience. Okay, there is a part in our brain called the amygdala. Amygdala. Okay, the amygdala will be activated, especially when we're under stress. So it will start to produce some hormones like a stress hormone, cortisol, adrenalines, and so on. Okay, so we will feel the emotion like the physical changes in our body. Heartbeats become faster, breathing rate become faster, the whole body become very hot. This is like when you are getting angry. So when you are sad or when you are in an anxiety state, that will be a different feelings. But all of this emotion and feeling, we can feel it in our body. Okay, and then as we said, this will be very unpleasant sensation or unpleasant experience. Then it will come to the next, which is like how to pay attention to this, isn't it? How to pay attention to it. I mean, in mindfulness, what we do is we feel the feeling. Okay, we feel the unpleasantness in our body. But to be able to do that, that is not easy because our mind is always very reactive. We always reject. We always want to run away from these feelings and this emotion, isn't it? So therefore, there is very important aspect of mindfulness is on developing what we call the right attitude. Okay, this is like purposely we have to develop this type of right attitude, which means that when we are aware that the mind becomes reactive, rejective, or try to run away, and we pay attention to this emotional reaction, disliking, fear, and so on. This require a lot of training. Okay, therefore, as I said, that is a very important part of mindfulness on how to pay attention to our emotions. So when we are able to pay attention to this emotion in this way, and we also understand why does this emotion arises. Of course, there are reasons for that. There are conditions for that. Okay. So, for example, if tomorrow I need to give a very very important presentation to maybe thousands of people, do you think that tonight I can sleep well? Definitely, I cannot sleep well because the conditions are there. But in mindfulness, what we do is we develop a type of what we call the right mindset. in Buddhist way, we will call it a right view. Okay, to understand that the emotions arise because there are certain conditions for them to arise. We develop this type of right understanding or right view so that we do not run away from the emotions. We just take the emotion as a natural state of mind or as a result of the conditioned phenomena. Okay, so that the mind will be more willing to work with this emotion in that way. Okay, so that is how mindfulness will help us to manage the stress and emotion. When we are able to pay attention to the stress or emotion in this way, we can say that we start to change our perspective on looking at things, looking at our emotions and feeling. This emotion and feeling, they arises because they are the right condition for them to arise. Okay, so there is nothing much we can do. What we can do is we acknowledge them, okay, and then slowly we allow them, and then we accept them. Therefore, in mindfulness, I always say this three A: acknowledge, allow, and accept. When we are able to pay attention to our emotions and feeling in that way, you see that our mind start to become less reactive. Okay, we are taking a we say that we respond to it in a different way. We respond to it with kindness, or you can say respond to it with love. So this is the first step of developing self-kindness and self-love. So when we train ourselves in mindfulness, beside like we have the ability to return to the present moment, second is we start to change on how we relate to stress and emotion. That is by purposely cultivating what we call a wholesome state of mind, which is kindness and curiosity in a simple way. Okay, I hope I answer your question, Dr. Sri.
Well, that is very well put, I would say. So, for those who are, this is just very quickly what Dr. Yo was saying, that if you're met with some kind of a crisis and stress, normally these thoughts becomes completely take over us. They pull us away and carries us away. And the more we begin to think about it, the more upset and stressed we become until we completely lose control. So, in the practice of mindfulness, what we need to do is to pull back and bring the mind to the present moment, because as long as your mind is anchored in the present moment, you are no longer dictated by the past or future, which is very troublesome. And after that, you begin to go back to your body, because the emotions are expressed in your body through various body sensations. Just by watching your body, you are actually coming back into some kind of control. And then later on, you begin to realize that the thoughts and emotions arises because of conditions. They are not you. Thoughts arises because of certain conditions, and you begin to watch thoughts rise and fall, and you acknowledge the thoughts, you allow them, and you accept them, and there's a sense of openness and allowance. And that instead of fighting against the emotions, when you begin to allow the emotions, then you begin to realize do you have much better control over these negative emotions, taking charge of yourself instead of being carried away by the stress. So that is, in short, what Dr. Yo is actually talking about. Now we've got a
Very
question.
good wrap up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the question. What is the difference between mindfulness in the secular setting and the mindfulness that is taught by the Buddha in terms of the ultimate goal? And this is in terms of looking at the techniques of the body scan and equanimity. Yeah. Is there a difference between the mindfulness that you practice for, like what we're talking about, compared to the mindfulness that we use as part of our spiritual cultivation within the Buddhist tradition?
Okay, very good question. In fact, this is very good question. Because I did so-called receive the training from both sides. I started with the what we call mindfulness from Buddhism. I call it classical mindfulness or traditional mindfulness. Attended many retreats, learned from monks. Okay, and then slowly I went to the West and learned the contemporary mindfulness. I think I'm in the position to share some thoughts on this. Of course, there are a lot of similarities and there are differences as well. First, the goal is different. The final goal in traditional mindfulness is always to attain liberation. I mean, liberation from the suffering. That will be the highest and the finest goal. But the Buddha also do not deny the benefits that can be brought by mindfulness, or sometimes the Buddha always use the word mindfulness and clear comprehension, sati and sampajanya. Okay, so when we develop sati and sampajanya, which is when we develop mindfulness and clear awareness in our daily life, we can also feel the benefit immediately in this very life, or in our present life. So the Buddha actually do not deny there are a range of benefits from the highest, or from the most basic to the highest one. So I would say for contemporary mindfulness, okay, so when we said, to achieve a calm state of mind, to even develop deeper understanding of mind and body, in this way they are the same, they are overlapping. But of course, the contemporary mindfulness do not have the what we call liberation as the final goal. Mainly, contemporary mindfulness was used to solve what we call immediate issue like stress, emotions, and how to be more focused, how to improve your performance, leadership, and so on. Okay, but I don't think there is any contradiction in this way, because if you practice from the Buddhist tradition, you may also feel the same benefits. Okay, this is in terms of the goals, they are different. The second differences will be in terms of the setting. Okay, so in the Buddhist, when you want to learn Buddhist mindfulness, normally what you can do is go to retreat center or meditation class. So that will be the setting will be different. Maybe sitting hour will be longer. So as you can see, the technique I shared with you just now, relatively they are shorter, okay, and they are more so-called technique based. And in terms of the language use is also very different. Okay, so if you are aware, what we use are just layman term. Okay, layman English. We do not have very technical terms. So when you learn from the Buddhist tradition, the way they are teaching may be slightly different. Okay, the teachers may share with you, using the Noble Eightfold Path, which is very good as well. But some people, if you are not a Buddhist, so that will not be friendly to them, so-called. If you are Christian or you are Muslim, you might not be able to learn so-called mindfulness in that way. So they are pro and con. Okay, in terms of one of the major difference in Buddhist mindfulness, mindfulness do not stand alone. Mindfulness always come together with the other noble path factors. So when we're talking about mindfulness, mindfulness is universal, as I pointed out just now, because mindfulness is just the ability to remember or to recall and to pay attention to the present moment. This is universal mind function. The Buddha or the Buddhism do not own mindfulness. This is for sure, because as we discussed this now, mindfulness is just in terms of a general mindfulness is just the ability to pay attention to the present moment. Even before the Buddha time, the teachers where the Buddha went to learn from them to achieve very high state of what we call concentration, the jhana state. These are all mindfulness. Without mindfulness, you will not be able to develop samadhi, or the focus or attention, what we call stability of mind. What is unique about Buddhist mindfulness is what we call the right view. Okay, right view. Then we have to talk about the three characteristics. Okay, not dukkha, anicca, and anatta. Impermanence, not self. Not self actually means not is beyond your control, not in full control. In fact, when we say not self, there will be thing arises because of cause and effect. Just now, even without using the Buddhist term, I already trying to introduce some what we call right understanding, to understand that the emotions actually arises due to conditions, cause and condition. So it really depends how deep what we call the experience or the knowledge that the mindfulness teacher have. If you have better knowledge, he can also share mindfulness, so-called contemporary mindfulness, by bringing in so-called the wisdom, the Buddha wisdom, so that we can actually work with the emotion in a better way. So that is also one of the different. In terms of the technique, of course, we say we are using the body scan technique. Actually, the body scan technique also borrow from a Goenka method. Okay, the Goenka method is they start to use the body scan. So there are similarity as well. I hope I do answer your question. Yeah.
Yes, this is a very good question. It can be very complex as well. But if you were to do mindfulness, whether you're doing it for spiritual cultivation or whether you are doing contemporary mindfulness, it will always bring benefits to us. And it is these benefits that give us motivation to strive on. And if you really want to sharpen and want to develop your mindfulness to a much greater level, then maybe you should also have a look at within the Buddhist tradition. They have what we call the Satipatthana Sutta, the foundation of mindfulness, that talks about that 4 foundations of mindfulness. And for that, it is good for you to read. If you really want to go deeper, then you have to go under retreat conditions and all that. That's what Dr. Yu is talking about. So this contemporary, take it easy. But you can see the benefits immediately. It is good for handling stress. And there's also another thing as well. It is also good for developing positive emotions, like developing empathy and self-confidence and leadership and also emotional intelligence. So both dealing with negative emotions as well as developing positive emotions. So I think we only have time for just one more question. Time is almost like running out. Is there any question?
Okay. Last question, I think. Maybe Dr. Sri would like to read out.
All right. When we are feeling down or bad, how does becoming mindful about the negative emotion at the present moment helps?
Yeah, that is also a very good question. Sometimes when we are experiencing certain negative emotion or physical pain, so when we pay attention to the present moment, the feelings, okay, or the pain become exaggerate, okay, become more, okay, more difficult to cope with, isn't it? Therefore, as I said, very important, to develop that type of right attitude, and also to be very flexible and to know your own limitation. It's not to say that we can solve every challenges or every issue with mindfulness. If your mental stability or your mindfulness is not strong enough, which means do not well established, that will be not easy to work with the negative emotion. Okay, so therefore sometimes we need to work with a very good experienced teachers, and mindfulness as a therapy is not recommended to everyone. Okay, if you suffer from severe depression, okay, so mindfulness may not be good for you at that time being, because that time with strong emotions and a lot of negative thoughts. So when you pay attention to it and you cannot distinguish the thoughts and also cannot distance yourself from the feeling and emotion, many times you will just follow the emotion or follow your thoughts blindly. Okay, so that time mindfulness may not be very useful for you. So it really depends on condition as well. Okay, but when you are experienced or when you are well learned in mindfulness, then working with bad emotions and negative emotion is not that difficult. I would say, for my own personal experience, just very short sharing, before we end. Uh, the reason why I started to learn mindfulness, because I suffer from insomnia, sleeping issue, and also anxiety. Back to 20 years ago. That is my motivation. I have to learn a way how to work with this mental state and my emotion. That so-called motivated me to start to learn a technique or a skill to how to work with my emotion. But I have to admit, have to be very honest, the journey was not easy. Okay, you have to face with a lot of up and down, and you have to truly learn from that. Therefore, from a certain way, we can say that mindfulness is a skill. Okay, it's a technique that develop over time. You cannot expect yourself to be able to play a song on the piano when you first just attend the piano class for the first lesson. You take time to develop that skill. So mindfulness, also is a skill that has to be developed over time, and then you start to learn a way on how to work with your emotions. Yeah.
All right, so thank you very much, Dr. Yoka King, for giving us an excellent talk tonight. I think many the listeners will find it very beneficial, because sometimes when we listen to talks from members of the sangha, it tends to be more like liberation, and the line of argument is always in that direction. It is also good to see how, as lay people, that we can actually benefit from a simple technique called mindfulness. And as Dr. Yo says, that is, although mindfulness is really emphasized as one of the central skills that we should develop and encouraged by the Buddha, we Buddhists do not own mindfulness. Mindfulness could actually be practiced by people. It is universal in character, and the benefits are also universal. And because of that universality, it cuts across ethnic lines and religious lines, and anybody who wants to you want to try mindfulness, you will be able to gain benefit from it. So it is good. And mindfulness doesn't mean that you need to sit cross-legged all the time on a chair. I think Dr. Yo also did mention that how you can apply mindfulness even in your daily activities, even as easy as getting up from your bed, going to the bathroom, brushing your teeth, just paying attention to the fact that you're brushing your teeth. That is a mindfulness. And also in your daily activities. So that is how we can actually apply mindfulness. And so a very, very good talk that we have this evening. So thank you so much, Dr. Yoka.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Vijay, for presenting to us such an excellent talk. And those who want would be able to kind of follow up. Well, Vijay we had a good opportunity of being the first recipient of when Dr. Yo had come back with his SIY training. He had to give some kind of service to an NGO, and he needed to clock in some credit hours. And VGF happens to be the organization in which he ran the first SIY program, which I also attended before the very year. So thank you so much for joining us. And I could see that there is a lot of interest in this topic. Now let me just move on to another area, if I could say. During this pandemic time, our centers we have a nice center at Mbsr, but it has to be closed because of the protocols that we have. And as you know, when centers are closed, when people don't come to the center, when you don't run activities in the center, I must actually say that the contribution, the donations that we have to depend on to run, because we are not a commercial entity. We are an NGO. The donations has actually been really down, and just looking at the projections of income and expenditure, there's going to be a very large deficit that we'll be facing this year. So I hope that, if you feel that BGF is doing a good job in helping to spread the Buddha's teachings and keeping running activities for the benefit of the community, maybe you might want to consider to give some donations to BGF. And the way we're going to do it is that there are essentially 4 ways that you can make your contribution to BGF. Yes. Yeah. So there are 4 ways that you can contribute. The options is by doing it now, online banking, or pay with your bank account holder. Next slide, please. Yes, the is one. If you happen to have an account, there is this QR code that you can, and then you can pay. You can scan to make contributions to BGF. The second option is. Second option is now. This is you select it now on your banking app. You key in the bank number of BGF, and it is given as a PPM 0.0009199. Key in the amount and your transaction. Option 3. It will be under. You've got the wallet. You use a touch app, click the scan, and proceed to the payment. Option 4 will be and you have bank account. Okay, so the way we would do it is that those who have made contributions you have, next them to flash out the names of the contributors as an acknowledgement of the contributions that has been made, and also to give you information as well. This is the way of this tradition. We have to appreciate joy. When other people have made contributions for kind of religious cause, others might want to say rejoice. Okay, but this is what you can do. As we don't do this, you have the some definition of merits. Yes, on the merits that is generated by having listening and participating in Dhamma talk, which is all productive of good merits. May you and your loved ones be blessed with happiness, peace, and with success. And we like to share these merits with the devas so that they may shower blessings and protection on you and as well as your loved ones. And also remembering our departed relatives and friends, transferring the merits to them. Okay. And let us, if you're a Buddhist, that you have adopted Buddhist way of life, let us give thanks to the Tribute for all the blessings, guidance, and protection that we receive. And please recite after me. O Buddha, my spiritual master and refuge, thank you for the blessings, guidance, and protection. The Dhamma, holy saints and spiritual teachers, Bodhisattvas, Dhamma protectors and devas, thank you for the blessings, guidance, and protection. May the Buddha be at my head, the Dhamma in my heart, and the Sangha by my side to guide me and my loved ones always. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And a very good evening to all of you. May the blessings of the Triple Gem always be with you and your loved ones. Sadhu.